welcome, but a little bit late, but still right here, reviewed and ranked episode. As when I review usually at least three titles, and then I rank them in the order of my preference. Now, I often get asked when I'm doing this with having a ton of films here. There must be stuff that I must pretty much have all the classics, all the stuff in my collection that I really need. And no, actually, I'm probably still missing a lot of the stuff you would assume, as especially a horror fan, that I would have. Because today we're talking about George Romero's original trilogy for the Dead series. We're going to look at Dawn, Day, and of course the original Night of the Living Dead. So I don't own Night of the Living Dead, but let's look at the Criterion Edition, which is actually a pretty sexy beast. So for those that have not seen Night of the Living Dead before, which I'm sure everybody has seen Night of the Living Dead before, it was an amazing film. We have, at the time, George Romero was more of an industrial filmmaker. He made this like film pretty much on a shoestring budget, and it became the classic over the years that we see now. And then back in 1968, it was a very, very like big time for independent films. It was a big time for the zombie film. The zombie film was not what you like. We know the zombie film today as having so many different like intricacies, but before Romero did this type of zombie film, it just didn't exist. So he really did that. So there's a ton of features on this here version. I eventually one of these days hope to have the Night of the Living Dead Criterion release. Look at that. It looks so sexy. And it is so needed. And the fact that this came out around the time of Martin Luther King's assassination, well, especially considering what happens in the film, then yeah, you know exactly what you're getting, and why it becomes so popular. It was a really good, really well done film. It's shot in crisp black and white, and black and white really works well for Night of the Living Dead. The actor that was chosen for the lead, there was no particular reason that he was chosen, except for the fact that he was the best actor that they saw. So, where some people thought, well, maybe this was trying to make a statement. Martin Luther King thing happened. It was kind of like a happenstance that happened at that time period. Definitely, it brought new eyes onto Night of the Living Dead, and let a lot more people see it. But it just goes to show you kind of how progressive that George Romero was. That when he was looking for the best actor, he chose the best actor. And in 1968, his choice could have been risky, especially in certain areas where we still got like segregation and stuff like that. But I'm not here to talk about the political part of that, even though George Romero's films are highly political and have strong statements within them. I'm a huge fan of Romero. Unfortunately, I did not get to meet the guy, and I really wish I had. But Night of the Living Dead is an excellent film. It's tightly edited as well. Some acting choices I'm not going to lie, some acting choices are better than others. You're never going to forget. The first time you see the scene with the little girl down in the basement, you're not going to forget that scene. It's something that sticks with you. It's one of those scenes, kind of like when you're watching like The Exorcist, or the first time you see Jason jump out of the lake in the original 1980 Friday the 13th. You don't forget it. It is a scene that is etched in the memory of people throughout, and there's a reason it's a classic, and I love it. I think it's a fantastic film. Now, to follow that up, how do you follow up a classic like Night of the Living Dead and actually make something that's truly iconic? Well, you do Dawn of the Dead. As you can see, I don't have the really cool edition of this one either. Well, this is a pretty cool edition, actually. This was put out by Anchor Bay. It was put out years ago. I think this came out in what year was it? It doesn't say here. I know the movie was 1978, but what year is the box set? So this is the Ultimate Edition. No longer is the Ultimate Edition, but at the time it was a really cool box set. You got all these cool features on here. You can see that. Got a comic book and the 4 discs. You got a bonus feature disc. You got like 3 different versions of the film. The theatrical version, which is the preferred director's cut of it, by the way. An extended version of the film, and the European version, which is done. That one is edited to be more tight and more action oriented, to take out some of the characterization stuff. That was done by Argento, and it has a Goblin score. So one of these days, I'm going to do a reviewed and ranked on all 3 versions of Dawn of the Dead, if you like that. Let me know if that's something that you like, and I will do that in the future. Dawn of the Dead was unlike it's the father, basically. And Night of the Living Dead was a different style film. It still had like still was a bit of a message film. Talked a lot about consumerism. There's a reason it was shot at a mall, and there was a reason that the zombies kind of like came to the mall. That's what they knew. That was their gut instinct. It's how they were wired. But it's different. We got it in glorious color finally. We got a great cast in this one here. I do think that the cast overall in Dawn of the Dead is just as strong, maybe a bit stronger than the cast in Night of the Living Dead. Though the lead in Night is so good. He is so good. But I do love the way that the overall cast plays off one another in Dawn of the Dead. They do a really good job. There's a lot of charisma. And there's a lot more action in this one. This is not your daddy's zombie film. It is one of these films that really stands the test of time. If you watch it, if you show somebody that hasn't seen a zombie movie, or that maybe hasn't seen an older one, and they watch they may not get it. They may be taken away from the black and white of Night the Living Dead. Yeah, I know there's some people that are. You're thinking, oh no, but yeah, it's true. But Dawn of the Dead is one of those that pretty much you can get into. You can get anybody to watch Dawn of the Dead, and it still plays well. There's obviously some of the things you don't see in malls anymore, unfortunately, but it does play just as well today. And good or bad, its message still resonates today as much as it did back in 1978. Again, an excellent film. We're going to get to the ranking. Don't worry. I know that's what you're here for. You don't care about the reviews. You've seen all these movies. My reviews are very light, kind of very surface when it comes to these type of reviews and ranks. Anyway, next up was Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. So this is the Scream Factory Edition. It's really cool, and actually got some really neat features on here, including a documentary on the film. Now, 1968 for Night of the Living Dead, 1978, I think for Dawn of the Dead. I had to check just to make sure. And 1985 for Day of the Dead. Now, Day of the Dead was supposed to be kind of his magnum opus. It was supposed to be a really big, really kind of like more price or more expensive film. And he was going to go all in. It was going to be his definitive statement on the zombie genre. Unfortunately, Romero had to cut some costs and cut some corners and change the script from what it was initially supposed to be. Now, does that show for if you hadn't known it? Not really, actually. This is a really well-played film. The cast in this one is incredible. I have the NECA figure for him, and one of my favorite characters in zombie history, right here. Does an amazing job. I love the cast in this one. Joe Pilato is particularly good in this film, and he's good in everything he's in. If you've ever seen him, you'll know him right away. But overall, you got a fantastic cast. The first three of the Dead films that Romero did, they are classics for a reason, and they deserve it. They're really, 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 really good. So how do I rank them? You got three classic, iconic zombie films done by George Romero at the height and peak of his creativity. You've got Night of the Living Dead, the original. You've got Dawn of the Dead. You've got Day of the Dead. Every person that likes zombie films, that have been entrenched in Romero's stuff and have watched and looked over the type of stuff that he's done, has a different answer for this. And no matter what I say, somebody's not going to like my answer, because they're going to say, well, it's got to be Night of the Living Dead. That's got to be number one. That's the classic. And other people say, Dawn of the Dead was a revolutionary one. That's the real number one answer. And then you're going to have like a fringe group that's going to say Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead, it does things, and it was underappreciated at the time. So true. So this is one of the hardest reviewed and ranked I've ever had to do. And every time I do a review and ranked, I push myself to pick something that's going to push me a little bit more. And we're doing that right here again tonight. Well, today. You can see it today. Look outside. Anyway. Number 3. I need to get a drum roll thing. I got to do that. There's got to be a drum roll thing I can do on here, so I can do that. We can get a drum roll put in. This is taped. I should be able to do a drum roll. I have no excuse. But I'm wearing my faded black shirt today. For those that don't know, it's the Vinegar Syndrome one. This one is still available, I think, on the website. There was another one I got that was exclusive for like a 3-day event, but I think this one's still available. So if you like faded black, check out the shirt. But I am going to put in the number 3 place Night of the Living Dead. Now remember, I love all three of these films. It's not a slight if something goes in a number 3 place when you like them all. It's just your own personal preference. I go back and forth on number 1 and 2. I love Night of the Living Dead. It's a fantastic film. But for me right now, out of these three, because these are three really, really good films, I go back and forth on 1 and 2, what my 1 and 2 place is. I always put Night in third. And that's not a slight against Night. That rhymes. Isn't that interesting? That's not a slight against Night, but it's just means that these films are so well done, so well made, and so fantastic. Then I go for the number 2 spot. Number 2 is going to be, and I've gone back and forth. I've actually gone back and forth. I watched these yesterday. Actually, I rewatched all three of these films yesterday. What do we go with? I'm second guessing myself. I'm almost changing my mind, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with my initial thoughts on this one here. I am going to put, although I love the film, and I often switch it back and forth. Day of the Dead is going to go number 2. I love Day of the Dead. It's an amazing film, great effects, great characters. But for me, the all-time classic out of the trilogy is going to be Dawn of the Dead. I love Dawn of the Dead. There was a box set that came out. From I think it was Second Sight that put it out. Correct me now if I'm wrong in the comment section down below. And feel free, there will usually be a link down here. If you want to help the channel, you want to donate, feel free to use the donation link down below, and it helps out my channel a lot. And if you're interested in my Patreon, it's the Live Movie Club. It's on Patreon, patreon.com. You can check it out. It's really fun. And make sure if you're watching this, like, share, subscribe, do all that jazzy YouTubey stuff. But yes, I gotta give it to Dawn. Dawn is such a fantastic film. There's 3 cuts of the film, and you know what? All 3 cuts of the film are fantastic. They're wonderful in each of their rights. I will review and rank the 3 cuts of Dawn of the Dead down the road as well when I get an updated version of them. I need my 4K of Dawn of the Dead. I need that before I can do this. But for this one here, I gotta give it to Dawn. Dawn just has such great characterization. I'm a mall kid myself, so I really do understand that if I was zombified, I'm guessing I would probably be going to your local mall as well, because that's where I hung out. Especially when I was younger, I was one of the mall rats that you would see back there. Shout out to Kevin Smith. But that's my ranking. Review and ranking for today. Number 3, Night of the Living Dead. Number 2, Day of the Dead. And number 1, in the number 1 spot. doing my worst Casey Kasem impression. In the number 1 spot for this week, it's Dawn of the Dead. 1970 classic by George Romero. Love the film. Thank you guys for joining me here for another edition of Review and Rank. Sorry this one was a day late. I might do a live video later on today. We'll talk about it. I've got some things to talk about, some things to discuss. And as always, thank you so much for my Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing. You Crimson Cult people, you wacky insane people. Don't worry, there's some great video content coming for you guys very, very soon. So if you've been holding out, you've been like, there hasn't been some stuff on Patreon in a couple days now. I'm rethinking it. Don't. Because there's some really cool stuff coming up. I promise you. I'm looking at doing another new series as well. I'm always putting some new stuff up there. And I did like kind of a short video essay thing on something different, actually. I did it on an album. And if you're a Patreon member, then you know what it is. I was very proud of that. I would like to do more essays and do like film essays and get some other stuff there as well. So if that's stuff you're interested in, look towards my Patreon, especially if you want to see some Jez Franco, Lucio Fulci, and you want to be in my Patreon before the Valentine's Day sale comes for Vinegar Syndrome, because we are going to be breaking that sale down right there. I am Aaron. I will see you soon. Thank you for joining me in Reviewed and Ranked right here in my, not my movie library, not my movie study, but in my movie watching area. I'll see you again soon. And hopefully you don't hate me too much for the ranking. Give your ranking down in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you think is the best Dead film. Please don't focus on why I'm wrong and why you're right. Please focus on why you like these films and why you have such a passion about the film in number 1 spot that you do. Because I know I'm going to get a lot of Day of the Deads. I'm going to get a bunch of Night of the Living Deads. Maybe I'll get a few Dawn of the Deads that agree with me. We'll see. And I'll see you soon.